Safety Toolbox Talk is on topic matter that in 2013 Berglund Construction Company got cited for by OSHA. Up until recently, that was the only citation that Berglund has had in my 10-year existence. We recently had what would be considered a near miss on one of our projects. It happens to be a hospital project, and in the closet of a 25,000 square foot build out, there were a couple of 2-inch diameter holes in the floor that were not covered. And somehow, someway, a 36-inch piece of threaded rod fell through the 2-inch hole, went through the floor below's drop ceiling, and landed on the floor of an existing occupied laboratory. The reason that can be considered a near miss was it came down vertically, it had some weight to it, it had some velocity to it, and if it would have struck an individual in the head or shoulder, it may have left a impalement of sorts that may have required stitches, if not something even worse, let alone the disruption of the owner-client. These are the type of things that we should be monitoring and should not happen. And asking the individual that reported this to me if he was familiar with the necessity of hole covers, he was not. So our acronym THINK, the hazard is not knowing. You could be looking at a hazard out there and not even realize that it's a hazard until something like this happens. So in talking about hole covers, the OSHA standards actually state that a hole cover has to withstand 2 times the intended load. And it's our responsibility as a general contractor to monitor our jobs and make sure that the subcontractors or Berglund are covering these holes. So when we have a hole, we need to cover it with a 3/4 inch piece of plywood, spray paint in orange, and write hole cover on it, and it needs to be fastened over the hole in case vehicular traffic or a lift, something heavy goes over this, it doesn't displace it and open that hole back up again. Back in the old days, we used to use plywood for various size holes, typically 3/4 inch. You would write hole on it, it would be spray painted orange and fastened down. But in today's world, there's a variety of these engineered hole covers that go down to a size 2-inch and then all the way up to a size 2 feet in diameter, and it's engineered to where you can put this thing in and screw these screws to the outer diameter of the inner core, and it would hold when a lift or something heavy would go over it. Hole covers are in subpart M, fall protection of the 1926 construction standards. When something falls through a hole and it's coming down on an unsuspecting person, this could be a near miss, it could be a fatality, it could be a serious injury or fatality. Falling object protection needs to be engineered out. The only way we can engineer that out is obviously to identify the hazard and to remediate that hazard. Have a handy dandy text here. It also talks about covers on skylights that tradesmen sit on rooftops, and they fall through skylights because of the weathering of the sun and the wind. Those skylights become very, very brittle, and there's guards now made for the top of skylights. Also, sewer basins on projects, even though we're inside that fence, they need to have a hole cover in case children get over that fence and want to goof around on the job site at night, that they don't fall into that basin. So hole covers cover an awful lot of territory, and we need to make sure that we're staying on top of this. It's considered a slip, trip, fall exposure. Back in 2013, we had an OSHA citation for a subcontractor who duct taped the top of eight 8-inch diameter pipes. OSHA came walking along and said, well, hold it a minute. My foot can fall into that pipe. I can break my ankle. I can dislocate my knee or my hip because duct tape doesn't withstand twice the intended load. So this week out on the projects, let's have a little brief talk in the morning with our peoples, typically on our Monday morning as you're watching the video and reviewing some of the text that has other data in it. Let's talk about hole covers on our job sites so that all of our trades are familiar with this on the fact that we need to engineer out that exposure. Let's have a safe day. Let's have a safe week. Thank you.